welcome to the 307 Baseball Podcast. I'm Aaron Poling. That's Anthony Colasuno. Thank you for joining us. But before we get going today, we want to say, first of all, thank you for tuning in, because without you guys, none of this is possible. But we also want to say we apologize for not getting a podcast out last week, just with our work week and being at Pocatello. We ended up covering every single game at the Pocatello Woodbat Classic. Just wasn't time in the week to get out a 307 Baseball Podcast, especially with the busy weekend we had before. But you don't want to hear about our busy weeks, but we want to get to the show. But we also want to say thank you for your patience, just because, we appreciate you guys sticking with us through some of the more hectic weeks that we have. I'm Aaron Poling. It's Anthony Colasuno. And Anthony, how you doing today?
Doing great, and can't wait just to get back in the swing of just some 307 baseball, especially after some great tournaments.
Yeah, Pocatello Woodbat Classic was one of them. There's great tournaments going on throughout the week. We're kind of getting to tournament play where there are conference games, but a lot of these teams, they're going to play in a lot of tournaments coming up, as we want to get to some conference matchups that have happened since we last joined you on the 307 Baseball Podcast. Let's go to Thursday, June 6th. Casper Drillers take out the Sheridan Jets 8-2, as the Drillers also win Game 2 8-6, as the Drillers sweep the Jets, as that was a pretty competitive Game 2. Game 1 kind of got away from the Jets, and, a theme that you're going to see throughout this podcast is a lot of really close games and teams trying to learn how to win those close games, as that's going to be important for teams going on down the line.
Yeah, crunch time situations are going to be very important, especially in conference play, where every win from here on out is pretty crucial just for seeding-wise.
Let's go ahead and move along to the conference games. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go over all the individual tournament games, but we know that there were a lot of tournament games played and a lot of really successful teams in Wyoming that got some really good competition. And I think at this point in the season, it feels good to see a team that you haven't seen so far this year, because it kind of seems like, with the amount of teams in the area, you might run into a bunch of teams a bunch of times that, you kind of play a team 5 or 6 times in a year. It's just nice to get a team from out of state that you haven't quite seen yet this year.
Yeah, it's like a breath of fresh air, basically, in that where, this is a new team where you get to learn what they do on and off the field and just try to see how they play and how iron sharpens iron.
So let's move along to Saturday, June 8th. We have a conference game between the Evanston Outlaws and the Rollins Bandits. Evanston sweeps Rollins 26-0 Game 1, 18-1 Game 2, as Walker Wilson tossed a no-hitter in Game 1. We have another conference matchup between the Sheridan Jets and the Laramie Rangers A-team, as the Jets were able to bounce back. They swept the Laramie A-team 5-2 and 10-0 in those two matchups.
Yeah, just good wins overall by the Jets.
That's a good way to bounce back, and all these games are important.
Yeah.
Another conference matchup between Evanston and Saratoga on that last Sunday, 18-0. Outlaws beat the Cutthroats Game 1. They win 20-1 in Game 2, as the Outlaws rolled through that weekend, going 4-0 as we continue to move on down the schedule as we get some more conference matchups. We had the Douglas Cats taking on the Laramie Rangers A-team. Douglas wins 9-6 and then 16-2 in Game 2.
Yeah, just two solid wins by Douglas, just adding some great wins to the resume.
Gillette Riders take on the Jackson Giants, as the Riders win 5-0 in Game 1 and then 12-1 in Game 2, as the Riders look to continue their strong start to the year. So move along. The Riverton Raiders and the Lovell Mustangs, they hooked up for a conference doubleheader. Lovell ends up sweeping. They win the first game 12-3, win that second game 9-8, as that was a very competitive Game 2 after Lovell ran away with Game 1. And that's another thing we talk about, those close games. Coaches might want to win by a blowout in the very beginning, in the games. Coaches might want to win by blowouts, just because it makes it an easier game to win. But there's something to be said when you get later on down the line and you've had to really grind your teeth in a one-run game for 7 innings.
Yeah, and it just also teaches the players valuable lessons, and also sometimes the coaches learn more about their coaching expertise in those crucial situations of how to handle, but also trying to guide the players through those tough situations.
Rollins Bandits and the Saratoga Cutthroats got together on Thursday, June 13th for a conference doubleheader. Rollins wins game 1 12-3. Saratoga wins game 2 10-3 as those two teams split. As it'll be interesting when the second doubleheader happens, how that plays out, just because that could potentially be the difference between being the 3 and the 4 seed on that side of the bracket in the Single A West District Tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. As being that 4 seed, you face the 1 seed. If you're that 3, you face the 2, and a little bit more of an easier path.
I mean, I don't think any path's going to be easy, as it looks like it's going to be a super competitive to the end type of year for the Single A, even the Double A.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really close games, a lot of really good teams really battling it out. Anthony, what is your first reaction to some of the scores that we just read?
Just how competitive these teams are. They're putting it all out there on the field, and some of those teams may be turning to the second half of conference play, some may be ending the first half. So they're going to look back at some of these scores and say, all right, how can we do better against this team? Or, hey, we left a couple of runners on base looking at the stat sheet. Next time, let's be a little more smart at the plate, or just so many different scenarios to try to plug in during practice.
Yeah, and one last score to report. Outlaws beat Evanston over Green River, 7-2 in game 1 of the doubleheader. That finished in 8 innings, and then they win 7-6 in game 2 of the doubleheader, and what was a really good doubleheader between those two teams.
It was an instant classic between those two teams. Both of them put it all out on the line.
As we want to go ahead and move along in the episode, we're going to talk to manager of the Rock Spring Stallions, that is Rocky Rondinelli, as we're going to go to that interview right now.
Aaron Poling and Anthony Colasuno coming to you with the manager of the Rock Spring Stallions, fresh off a run to the Silver Division Championship game in the Pocatello Woodbat Classic. That's Coach Rocky Rondinelli. And Coach, you guys got all the way to the Silver Championship game, and what's a really good tournament. Go ahead and talk about your guys' weekend.
Honestly, man, first of all, thanks for having me. You guys are awesome. I love what you guys do for the sport of baseball here in Wyoming. It's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
To have you guys there in Pocatello to do the whole entire thing is crazy. For 4 days of living at a ball field, you guys are nuts. But I'm glad somebody does it. So it was a good week. We went up Wednesday. There was 2 games that I'd really like to take back, to be quite honest. But for the most part, man, I thought the kids battled. They did what they needed to do. We played in some tight games. We're just struggling defensively right now. A Woodbat tournament, that Woodbat's is the great equalizer to any team, right? So I thought our kids hit the ball well. We had some pretty good approaches in a few games, and some we didn't. But defensively, man, it's been a little bit of a struggle, and especially when our dudes on the bump are just shoving. And we had a couple of gems, especially Griffey Garner pitched an absolute gem. Landon Oliver pitched an absolute gem. And even the games that we lost, Maddox pitched a gem. We just couldn't help him defensively. And then, we had one bad inning in that championship game that was just really, really bad, even though they were piecing up baseballs. When you give good teams extra outs, bad stuff happens, right? So, Zoddy pitched a complete game, 7 innings, and only threw 90 pitches. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He pitched a gem as well. We just, couldn't get out of our own way, which is, the 3 losses that we had in that tournament was the reason. We beat ourselves in all 3 of those games. So, but for the most part, I was pretty happy. You play 6 games in 4 days in a really good tournament. Chris does the guys from Pocatello put this on, did a fabulous job with it. So we thoroughly enjoyed it, man.
So what about these tournaments can really help your team come together?
I think, it goes beyond just the playing of baseball on the field, right? So the camaraderie of driving in the bus, for 4 hours, the hotels. After that Friday's game, we took the kids to miniature golf, good little team bonding thing, going on, and the restaurants that we go to, and all those things, and that they learn to be very respectful and those type of things, but just to build that team chemistry. And I think that's huge when you're on the road and you're playing in these 3 to 4 day tournaments, that these kids can really be themselves away from, the normal routine that they have at their house and around, without mom and dad around. They can just be them. And I think that's a really huge thing off the field. And, on the field, as long as they, continue to do the things that they are supposed to do, when you play good competition, and we played some really good competition this year. And that's the great thing about our schedule is, it's a little crazy. But we don't shy away from anybody, right? I mean, we're starting off, you start off the year with Post 6 and Laramie, and you go to Laramie's tournament, and then you go now we're going to Salt Lake next week to play some really good teams from Utah. And, this Pocatello tournament, there was some really good competition there. 16 teams. And I think, there were some really good things going on. So, with that said, it's a little bit of both on the field, but mostly off the field is where I believe that these kids can really learn to come together.
And Coach, how big is that, just off the field activities and coming together? How big is that, and how it could translate to on the field for the tournament next week in Salt Lake for you guys?
Oh, it's huge. It's absolutely huge, right? I mean, every group, every team has, everybody wants to be a cohesive unit. And I think that's all us coaches we want to do, right? But I mean, in every team and every group, there are cliques, right? That you have. I think that's just normal especially with teenagers. So you try, and like I said, when you break up that routine of the everyday stuff at home, then you can get them outside, and we can get rid of those cliques, and then all of a sudden, all right, man, when we're on a field or we're traveling or we're doing anything, it's not just about me and him, it's about us. And once we get over that individual stuff and, start, instead of not me, we, right? Once we get that, and I think these tournaments and those off the field activities and even on the field stuff it'll really help us as we move forward towards the state tournament.
So you guys have a unique bond, I feel like, with the Evanston Outlaws. It seems like the kids get along super well. And it seems like, because I was talking to Walker Wilson and I was also talking to Griffin Gardner's dad at your guys' tournament, the Southwest Series. And it seems like, I think they camped out at the Gardner place instead of going back all the way to Evanston. Let's go ahead and talk about the bond that your players have with some of the Evanston players.
Oh, and this has gone back a few, and I think we talk about this all the time, and it should be brought up because it is so unique. There's a lot of friendships there between the boys from both groups, right? And especially this group that you have with Walker and Hudson have become really good friends. Ryder and Hudson and Griffin have become really good friends. But not just that, it's pretty much all the kids from both groups. They snap each other all the time. They're constantly talking all the time. And, when we see each other a lot too, right? Especially in May. And, that's a good thing. We're either going there, they're coming here, and then we got our tournament, and those kind of things. But I mean, I've known Nick for a long time. I think he does a fantastic job, and he's got such a good group of kids, and the parents that you guys got over there and our parents that we got over here really get along. So, I mean, it's a cumulative thing. You know what I meant there. Good Lord, I can't even talk. But, it trickles all the way down, and those kids have been really good for, quite a few years now. And, this little rivalry / friendship that we have is really awesome to see, man. And it's starting to become a norm around the state, which is really, really cool.
And Coach, you speak of just the, camaraderie between both sides and the rivalry on the field. How does that bring the best out of both the Outlaws and the Stallions when they face off?
And I think that's how it should be. I think that everybody wants to win, right? I think that, this is, you try and, everything's developmental, and you want to teach them this, and you want to do this, but everything's about winning at the end of the day, right? That's what we want to do. So, even though there's that friendly rivalry, it's still rivalry, right? It's still a thing. And I think Nick wants to beat me just as bad as I want to beat Nick. You know what I mean? But it's still, at the end of the day, it's all love. But, we always say when you're in between them lines, things are different. We'll have a good time while we're doing it. but we're going out there to win. So I think that stuff just competition, man. It's how it should be. I mean, we tell these boys all the time, man. The rest of your life, you're going to compete in everything that you do. As a male, that's just the thing that you're going to do. So, we start getting those juices going, while they're playing baseball or any other sport, just going to carry on with them for, the rest of their lives. So, but yeah, it brings that friendly rivalry, man, brings out the best in everybody.
So let's go ahead and turn to your team, Coach. And I don't want to say that any players have surprised you, but who on your team have you learned a lot about this year that maybe going into this season you might not have expected them to have as big of a role, but they've really stepped up for you?
Oh, so I can't. I mean, I'd be doing a disservice if I picked just one.
Mm-hmm.
We are extremely young. We've only got a few returners basically, but we got some new kids. But I will point out one, just because he wasn't with us last year, but he has been such a beacon of light, I would say, and just a good kid to have around, and that's Steve Harmon. We put him in different spots. Never been an outfielder before, and he's our number 3, number 4 guy in the outfield, and he's starting to hit the ball a little bit better, but he's also a spot starter and a reliever for us on the bump. And it's been really good to watch him grow from not playing for the last couple of years, and then from where he was in November to where he is now is huge. I knew it. I would say that with I call them the big dogs, but Maddox, Griffin, Ryan, Billy, those guys are doing what they're supposed to do. Ryan has been absolutely awesome, especially at the plate. Billy's hitting over 350. Maddox is a dude on the bump, right? And Griffin, and I can put Griffin in all kinds of different spots. So, and now he's taking over that third base role, and he's running with it, and he's looking really good doing it. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Hayden Bledsoe behind the plate has just been absolutely awesome. Again, from where we were to where he is now is leaps and bounds, right? He won the game for us the other day in Pocatello with the RBI in the 6th, right? And it was Jackson Reese before him that tied it up. So, I mean, these are really good things to have with these kids. And I feel bad for one kid, Ivan, who has hurt his back earlier this year and hasn't played at all for us yet. That kid's an absolute stud. So hopefully he comes back. If not, I'm hoping he's available for next year. But I've got there's a lot of kids, man, that I could sit here for hours and talk about. But Steve has done a magnificent job. Hayden, Jackson, Jason, I just go on and on and on. So I really can't just, like what I said, I really can't just pick one, man. These kids have surprised me a lot.
What are some of the challenges of coaching a younger team? I know it's, as a manager, you're going to want all the experience in the world, but to get that experience, you have to play. And what challenges come with that?
Everything. every damn thing there is. No. The youthful energy is great, right? But it's just the lack of experience on some things, right? So, I got kids that are starting for the first time, playing up. Preston Harvey did a phenomenal job. Damian Valerio done a phenomenal job, but they're young. So, you get in that mode where you make a mistake and then it just carries on and it carries on. So, getting over the fact of, one mistake not ruining your day. We're getting better at that now, but that's definitely taken some time, and it's some patience that I don't have. I'm not very good at that, so, but yeah, honestly, it's just those things, right? Like lack of experience. It's just lack of reps, right? I mean, you can say we're young, you can say all kinds of things, but they just haven't seen those situations before because at this level, right? They may have seen it, in B or C or, even, before that, but they've never seen it at a varsity level. So that, that opens your eyes up a little bit. But at the same time, it's just trusting the process, um, and going through the things that you need to do to get to where you need to be, right? So, I mean, patience is hard, but we're learning.
And Coach, you say about trusting the process. How does that help you as a coach and your coaching staff, but also the players on the field?
No, I think it's huge, honestly, because you have a plan, right? You want to stick to that plan as much as possible. You're going to make adjustments here and there, but ultimately the plan is going to be the plan. And so if everybody sees the plan, everybody buys into the plan, everybody understands what's going on, then it's just building them roadblocks to get there, right? So the staff's on board, the kids are on board. It's just it takes time. I mean, we're 31 games in. I know that sounds like a lot. It is, honestly, but there's for some kids this is game 120, and for some kids it's game 31. You know what I mean? So that takes them a while to get there to where they need to be, and we're putting them in different spots. And one kid that's an outfielder his whole life is in the infield, and one kid that's in the infield been an out. You know what I mean? So it's just hey, and here's why we're doing what we're doing. So I think that's the main thing, is explaining those things to the kids so they understand it and they get it, and then just sticking to that game plan, and it'll all work itself out.
So let's get into a little bit more personal stuff about the game of baseball. So where did the love of the game start for you? We talked to coaches quite a bit, and that's one of my favorite questions to ask is, where did you really fall in love with the game? Just because baseball is such a great game, and someone always usually introduces a kid to it. Where were you introduced to the game?
Oh, I'll go back to when I was 3 years old. I think everybody has that same story. Mom and dad take you to the field to sign you up for t-ball. You're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, and you have no idea what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And as you get older, and then you go through the coach pitch and stuff, and then when you get to Little League. For me, honestly, we moved from California to Utah when I was 9. And so we were playing Little League baseball as a 9-year-old, minor league all-stars, and we won the state tournament when we were 9. And it was played in Castledale, Utah, which is where we were. And we got to get on a plane, fly to California, play in a regional tournament, which in San Jose, which was just the coolest thing in the world. And so I was like, but at 9 years old, it's really cool to play the game and that kind of stuff. But I think it was honestly a couple of years later, I was watching this scrawny little kid from Kalamazoo, Michigan, playing shortstop for the New York Yankees. And good Lord, look at this dude. He was built like me. That was obviously a long time ago, because I do not look like that now. But in, 95, that was, he only played a couple times, but then, 96, he broke out. This dude wearing number 2 playing shortstop for the Yanks. So Jeter made me really, my father, of course, introduced me to the game, playing the game, all that stuff. So he's a huge influence. And I think Jeter solidified it. And, that group, and, him, Mo, Pettit, Jorge, that group, been a Yankee fan my whole life, and just Jeter's my guy. So
yeah,
that solidified it.
Fun story about Derek Jeter. My high school social studies teacher, her husband played against Derek Jeter in high school, and I was so happy to ask her about it. And she came back, and I asked her how to do against him, and she goes, "Oh, 2 home runs given up," which sounds like a lot, but against that guy, that might be a pretty good day for a pitcher.
Yeah, right. Dude's he's a Hall of Famer. Still like to find out which guy decided that didn't want to put him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, right.
What the hell that guy was thinking.
I was going to say, that's one of the most try-hard things that the baseball media does sometimes, is refuse to give someone a unanimous vote into the Hall of Fame. It's one of those things that kind of seems like it's almost why are we doing that? Like, everyone knows a player's a Hall of Famer. They should just be a Hall of Famer unanimously. I don't know why you would think Derek Jeter isn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. I guess maybe 5 World Series rings might have gave him the unanimous, Hall of Fame votes, but what a career for that guy.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I go back to, it's 20 years, it's a 20-year career with the same team in the toughest market there is in New York, and he did it the right way. You know what I mean? He was a class act. He just went out and played baseball. All he wanted to do was win. He didn't care about anything else. He would sacrifice anything to win. I mean, it's that mentality, right? That Mamba mentality. Kobe had it. Tiger has it. Of course, Mike had it. That mentality is, no matter what, I want to do everything I can to win. So, you try to instill that in these kids, right? But hopefully one day they get it.
And Coach, growing up in baseball, who was a huge mentor to you personally on the field? If it was a coach or your father or even a teammate?
I have so much, but I'll go to my dad, obviously. He, like I said, he coached me through Little League. And then when I got into Pony League and then high school and, Legion ball, he wasn't there anymore, but he was always in the stands. No matter what, we would talk, and we still to this day, we talk constantly about baseball, about coaching, about different things. And it's really cool to have those conversations with him. And, now my son, who's 25 now, is in a different sport, but he's starting to get into coaching. So this will be his second year at the high school coaching football. And just to see that, legacy from, my dad to me to him is the coolest thing in the world. So my dad's the biggest influence in the world on me when it comes to coaching, and I'll never be able to thank him enough for all that he's done for me.
Yeah, very fitting, especially with Father's Day yesterday. Is he the one who kind of got you into coaching as well?
Oh yeah, dude. Watching that dude do it his whole life, and then once we got out of high school, I wasn't playing anymore. So what can I do to give back? So I think I've been coaching baseball for 20 something years, 22, 23 years, T-ball all the way up. I've done football. I've done, whatever. So I've been doing this for a long, long time.
So back to the question about Jeter. So do you classify yourself as a Yankees fan? If so, how do you think the season's going? You add Juan Soto to an already, big lineup. Oh.
Dude, listen. I'm a diehard Yankee guy. My dad was born in New York, so
gotcha. That makes sense.
So I've been a Yankee fan, but I never really, until I found that dude. I'm just a kid, right? I'm just going to do what dad does. But I was 11 years old when I seen Jeets the first time. So yeah, then I started really, following as much as possible, and then that was my ticket into diving into baseball and reading books and documentaries and watching stuff. But the team this year, it's amazing to me how well they've done, especially without Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
But adding Juan Soto is absolutely top notch, right? So now he gets to see what it's like to he gets pitches. He sees pitches he probably hasn't seen his whole career, right? And which is crazy because Aaron Judge was struggling so bad the first month. It was gross. And now he's got 26 bombs and he's hitting just under 300. So
that's a good year for most people.
Yeah, I mean, I think
we're in June.
Yeah, so last night when they got their booties whooped by the Red Sox, which always just makes me want to yak.
Yep.
They had, so between Soto, Stanton, and Judge, you added Judge's last night, they have 61 homers, which is more than 4 teams total.
And I'm guessing one of those teams might be my team. So,
which is
Tigers. Got Tigers and White Sox here, so we're on the struggle bus right now. We've all got no hit.
Listen. If when you say that and you say it out loud with pride, good for you. I never dog on anybody for the team that they like ever.
I was gonna say I thought the Yankees fan was about to give us a lecture, and
Nope.
Losing's bad sometimes, but it gets better. I thought we were about to get a lecture from a Yankees fan about possibly
not.
losing.
No, I don't. And so my assistant Jake, who I've known forever and is just the best dude in the world, he's a diehard Red Sox fan. Ooh. So we get to have those battles back and forth. And then I've met, there's so many people that I talk to constantly. Me and Huggins, Jason Huggins is probably my best friend that I've ever had in baseball. This dude is absolutely phenomenal. We talk constantly, and he's a diehard Braves fan, right? So, we get to have somebody that you can just talk baseball with is great. Fans are fans. We're going to talk a little smack. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's been a while since my Yanks have won, so I can't even use the, back in the, or late 90s, early 2000s, right? It was easy to talk smack as a Yankee fan. It was absolutely easy and simple. Now, since they haven't won one, you can't even use the old, we've won 27. What do you got? Yeah. Nobody even cares anymore, right? It's been, it's 2024. It's been 15 years. Now, granted, the Astros stole a couple of cheating B words, but I hate them. I hate them, bro. I hate them.
I was going to say there's no Astro fans on the coaching staff anytime soon.
No. None.
Unfortunately, Coach, Zoom's reminding us that we got 10 minutes remaining, but we appreciate you taking your time. But another question I want to get to, what improvements do you want to see out of your team? I thought this weekend was some of the best baseball I've seen you guys play this year, and I've seen you guys quite a bit. And I thought that a couple of times it looked like you guys are really starting to put it together. Obviously, the youth still kind of shows up, but where do you want to see your team improve?
Just minimizing the mistakes, man. That's it. That's all I want to see. Get better in everything that you do. We have that mantra of be better today than you were yesterday, be better tomorrow than you were today. It's all about improvement, right? That's the only thing we want. So when we do make a mistake, right? If I have 6 errors in a game, good Lord, that's terrible, right? So let's cut that in half. And that's what I keep telling these guys. They would just cut the mistakes in half. Those 23 L's we have, we cut those in half. You know what I mean? So I think those are the things it's constantly putting in the work, rep, and making every rep count. Don't take reps off. Get in there and work your butt off constantly and never take a rep off. So once we can minimize the mistakes, have that'll fix the mindset. That'll fix everything else. So that's what I want to see them do. Compete, man.
And Coach, you speak that you're over 30 games into the season. What are some of the lessons learned from the first 30 that you can implement in for the rest of the season with tournaments and conference play ahead?
Yeah, I got a lot of conference games coming up. The good thing is we've seen a lot of these teams already. And the other good thing is these coaches around the state have done such a phenomenal job and do such a phenomenal job with these groups. And we're just trying to keep up, right? So, the more games, the more live reps that you get, the better off you are. And I always say you can learn a lot more from a loss than you can from a win if you're competing, right? Now, granted, if you go out there and get your butt whooped by 10, 15 runs, that doesn't do anybody any good. That's go out there and play a baseball game, right? Compete and see what happens. And if you leave it all on the line and you lose, and it sucks, but you can live with that. So what we've learned is that trying to learn how to win kind of thing, right? If we compete, we can learn how to win. Now we can get to the next step of learning how to finish games. And then it's just an expectation when we get out there, right? Like this, we've been here, we've done that. Let's go ahead and do things the right way. And, things will happen the way they're supposed to. So, we've learned a lot from these 31 games, some good, some bad. But we try to focus a lot on the positive rather than the negative, because as it's easy to focus on negative things, right? So we try to take momentum and anything positive and build off of that. So, and I think that's been a really good approach for us as a staff to try and get these kids into a better mindset and starting to take hold, man.
Well, awesome, Coach. You really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Good luck the rest of the way. But as manager of the Rock Spring Stallions, it's Rocky Rondinelli. Once again, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Want to thank manager of the Rock Spring Stallions, Rocky Rondinelli, for being a part of today's 307 Baseball podcast. We really enjoy getting to know all of these coaches as looking to span out a little bit more as we'll see who's next week's guest, as it's going to be a surprise, as it is every week. Obviously, we don't announce these. Sometimes it's a surprise to us, but not next week. But we appreciate all the coaches who have taken time out of their busy schedules to sit with us and chat for, it seems like 10 minutes we talk for, but it's really 30 minutes, and you really get to know these guys. And that's one of my favorite parts of this gig is getting to know all of the managers and really learning what drives them in the game of baseball.
Yeah, just driving them in the game of baseball, but also, just some fun stories about them that usually people won't hear. Especially when people think of a coach, just, it's straight up coaching, and helping out players in the American Legion level. But when you get to the fun part and just finding their love of baseball, it's just amazing.
Yeah, everyone has that moment where they fell in love with the game if you still love the game as an adult. And that's one of the fun parts, just learning. And, these coaches, they're far more than coaches. There's a lot of personality when it comes to coaches in Wyoming. You just gotta find it, and you got to be able to extract it, which hopefully we're able to get some of the personality of these coaches out. And we're hoping that you really enjoy these long-form interviews. If you see us at any events, please give us feedback. Let us know if you like these type of interviews. We'll do more of them. If you'd like to hear, maybe less from a coach, or just give us feedback, and we'll take it into consideration, as that's one of the things that we love about 307 Baseball is you guys are always willing to let us know what you want to hear. And speaking of let us know, you guys have let us know who you think the top 5 teams in both the single A and double A are, as our 307 coaches and media poll was this week, as we are going to go over that poll first, starting with the A team. The A-League, the A-team. You got Face and, well, now Mr. T. But I digress as we go off on a little bit of a weird tangent. Riverton comes in at number 5 as the Raiders. Second week in a row, they're on the 307 Baseball podcast poll.
Yeah, and this Raiders team is doing very good after somewhat combining forces with Lander. Some Lander players joined the Riverton Raiders here in their first season of American Legion, and they're just gelling on the field well, and it's turning out for some great results.
Yeah, and for people around the program, I'm sure they're not surprised, but when you get a team coming back into Legion play for the first time, you don't really expect them to get off to the start the way Riverton has, and that's a credit to Coach Rennig and just the rest of his staff, and they've been very, very good. They contracted 7 votes in the poll, as Gillette comes in at number 4. The Rustlers, they received 8 votes in the 307 Baseball Media and Coaches poll, as Gillette continues their strong play.
Yeah, Gillette's a very strong team, and they're going to make some noise throughout the season for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how everything shakes out as the year continues. I mean, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. If you can believe it, the district tournament for the Single A West is in a month. So we have less than a month before playoff games, and those are the best games of the year, obviously. Those are the games that everyone wants to play in. But it'll be really interesting to see how the rest of the season shakes out as we move along to number 3, as it is Casper. They finish with 18 votes. That is the Drillers in the Single A, as Casper comes in with 18, and they continue their strong play. They have been a mainstay on the 307 Baseball Coaches and Media poll all year long.
And it just shows how good of a team Casper is and how they're working their program. Just a great program down there in Casper, and they just continue to win and feed momentum into their season, and just got some great players as well.
Absolutely. As we move along to the Cody Cubs, they are the number 2 team in the Coaches and Media poll, and I want to make sure that I say it right. It was the Casper Drillers in A. Casper Oilers are double A. We'll talk about them more later, as that's a little bit of a teaser for the double A side of things. But the Cody Cubs come in at number 2. They also received 1 first-place vote this year, and I think that's the first time in Single A that we have had a team outside of Powell get a first place vote.
And that's just huge for Cody. And, I bet some of the players and coaches who listen, they're definitely going to hear that, and they're going to try to put that chip on their shoulder and try to continue through the season and hunt down Powell.
Yeah, and the Cody Cubs, they know how to win games. A lot of these kids are state champions. I mean, I'm sure there are still leftovers from 2 years ago when they won a state title in the middle of winning a bunch in a row. This Cody Cubs team, they're going to be very ready to go in the playoffs, and sometimes you lose that title game, and sometimes that can relight a fire under a team. And I know we talked to Coach Bo White, and they don't look at it that way, but there's just something about coming in as the hunters versus the hunted that gives you a little bit more of a chip on your shoulder, like you said, as we move along to number 1. That is Powell. The Pioneers, they receive 34 votes, all first-place votes except for 1, as the Pioneers continue to roll along in their season. They've been very good this year, along with a lot of teams. And, this Powell Pioneers team, they return a lot of talent from the championship team last year, and that's something that I know is on their mind. They've had a lot of success up in Powell throughout the entirety of the school year. If you think about basketball, they didn't lose a single game.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of success. They want to continue it into the postseason on the diamond.
Yeah, and Powell, they're looking to repeat as the state champs on the baseball diamond. They just are a great team and are just winning games upon games right now, and it's just feeding well through the program.
Absolutely. That single A state tournament last year, that tournament was incredible.
Yeah.
Just kind of following along at afar. I got home a little bit before the end of the tournament, so I was able to watch a couple of the games. But, man, that tournament was incredible last year, and it's shaping up to be the same thing this year, where it's going to be really good. It could be one of many teams that come away winning this thing. Obviously, for all of the teams on our 307 Baseball Coaches and Media Poll, these are not final rankings where they will be seated, but there are a lot of teams that can make some noise in that tournament, and I'm just very excited to see how the rest of the single A shakes out this season, because there are some really big conference matchups still coming up, and we are going to be excited to let you know when those happen.
We're even excited right now, and
Yeah.
we haven't hit the thick of it yet as well, as there's going to be a lot of some good games and possible upsets coming soon.
As we move along before we move along to the AA, I want to let you know that Torrington, Lovell, Green River, Cheyenne, Sheridan, and Douglas all received votes in the 307 Coaches and Media Poll. As we move along to the AA, coming in at number 5, the Cheyenne Hawks. As if you remember to last year was their first year in AA baseball, and I think a lot of those kids are starting to really pick up the game at the AA level. For some of them, it's their first crack at AA varsity baseball, and you got to learn how to play the game at this level. And they've played a lot of games, they gained a lot of experience, and it looks like it's paying dividends this year.
Yeah, and with the Cheyenne Hawk squad's second year in AA, like you said, Aaron, they've picked up some key wins already and are just moving and grooving to the beat and are just getting plenty of experience.
This brings up the Gillette Riders at number 4. As they come into the season off of that run to the Northwest Regional. Not saying that they're trying to prove that they belong there, because obviously they were there and they made it all the way. They outlasted the teams from other states. The only team they didn't outlast was a team that eventually won the state tournament and the Northwest tournament, and went on to go and have success in North Carolina at the American Legion World Series. As this Riders team, they're very talented, and I think they're really starting to put it together.
Yeah, this Riders team is putting together the right time, and it just speaks volumes to the coaching and also the players just getting, just putting those results on the field really well.
Sheridan Troopers are number 3 as they received 17 votes. This is a Sheridan team that's already won a couple of pretty impressive conference games that are going to have them almost in the driver's seat for that 1 seed. As if they take care of business, they can go back in that tournament as the 1 seed. They have had a very, very impressive start to their season, coming in at number 3.
Absolutely. Like you said, they're looking to get back to that 1 seed, and this team is just rolling on all cylinders right now.
Coming in at number 2, we have the Casper Drillers with 18 votes. They just edge out Sheridan. As these two teams have kind of bounced back and forth in our 307 Coaches and Media Poll all year, the Drillers have continued their success they had in the state tournament last year, getting all the way to the championship game, as they're looking to finish the job this year. And all of these teams that we have mentioned, I think they're teams that can give legit runs at our number 1 team. That's the Cheyenne Sixers, as they come in with 30 first-place votes. With 6 first-place votes, all 30 votes tallied, as they had all first-place votes on our Coaches and Media Poll. But kind of going over some of these teams, Anthony, I think there's some teams that can give the Sixers a run for their money.
Oh, plenty of teams. There's plenty of dark horse candidates out there that can give the Sixers a run for their money for sure.
The AA tournament, we talked about the single A tournament going to be exciting. The AA tournament is going to be exciting as well, as just baseball in Wyoming so far has been exciting throughout the year, and we are so excited to bring it to you. But before we go, we want to let you know on some program notes, as we will have every single game of the night invite, as we'll be broadcasting all of those games live on mylocalradio.com, as well as the Elko tournament. Those aren't this weekend, but next weekend. We'll have every single game from the night invite. We'll have every single game from the Elko field at the Elko Invitational. Unfortunately, we can't get to the second field. That's over in Spring Creek. But we will have every single game that we will have at Elko, every single game at the night invite. We'll have all of the Single A West District games, all the Single A state title games, all the Double A state title games. We will have all the Northwest Regional games as well, as still got to be a pretty busy summer for baseball coming up, as we still have a ton to decide. We are excited for it. And until next time, Aaron Poling, Anthony Colasuno, signing off.